Today in the Brick Lab, we're going to be setting out to conquer Ninjago. So I set out to design a miniature version of the Iron Doom, but I don't quite think I succeeded. While this is a lot smaller than the original, it's still way too big to be considered mini. I mean, it's maybe 2/3 of the size, but I'm really happy with it because it still has all of the features of the original one, and it still looks pretty menacing. For example, compare the average minifigure to that mini Iron Doom, and yeah, he's gonna be pretty scared. And like I mentioned, it still has all of the features of the original. For example, we have these little snakes built into the hands here, and we have the claws and a little sword holder clip here, which we'll get into later. And of course, up top here, we have that spring-loaded shooter, although I did turn this one on its side in order to fit it into the head better. And of course, my favorite feature, which is the Hands of Time clock, and it actually spins. And I know that in the set version, the Hands of Time don't actually spin with the clock, but at this scale, this was the only way I could also fit them in with the clock, and to be honest, I think it does look pretty good. And if we turn to the back, we can see how that mechanism works. We have a larger gear here, and then several smaller gears beneath it. And to be honest, these 3 smaller gears are really just for show, but I think they really add a lot to the clockwork aesthetic. And as you can see here, we also have the swords here. We can unclip them from the back holsters there and turn right around and just plug them into the hand. And then just wrap the fingers around it, and then you can go out and take out some ninja. And it has the same hinge features as the original Iron Doom. And of course the shoulder is a ball and socket for greater posability and whatever else. And the one change I did make to the overall design look was replacing those dark brown spider leg pieces with these more curved slopes. They fit in a lot better with the miniature version, and to be honest, I think they have a lot more of that Victorian era steampunk feel to them. So the true test for whether or not the Iron Doom succeeds is whether or not it can fit the 2 time twins, and the answer for this one is, well, obviously they're in there, so it can. Now, for this one, the time twins can either stand like they're doing now, or they can sit, but I really prefer to have them standing because the seats in here are really deep because in order to fit this time clock thing. And so if you have them sitting, they'll kind of be really out of sight. Although maybe that's what you want. Maybe you prefer them to be lurking down at the controls here. And one other thing is that the studs are fairly close together. And so if you want to have them both in here at the same time, you're going to want to stagger the hands a bit so that they can actually sit next to each other without one of them being knocked off of their seats. So let's move on to the support system. The original Iron Doom is supported by a series of Technic beams, and is really very sturdy, or so I would imagine. I actually haven't built that one yet. Mine, on the other hand, is supported only by a double layer of Technic angle connectors here. And while they do a great job of holding the model up, they're also fairly wobbly, and it probably puts an undue strain on those bricks. So what I did to fix that was built this clear stand, which plugs into the back here and really does a great job of supporting the bottom of the mech there. It has a lot of stability, and really, it's fairly unobtrusive, and if you're displaying this from the front, you're really not going to see them at all. Plus, if you're using this in a stop-motion animation and you really don't want them there, you could actually probably mask them out fairly easily, as they're clear, and they don't really cast much of a shadow. Anyway, that concludes our look at the somewhat miniature Iron Doom. But you know, one thing I would have really liked to have seen would have been the Iron Doom versus the new Samurai X mech. I mean, it's not an official set, and so it really wouldn't have been in the show, but I really think that would have been neat to see. Although, knowing Ninjago, the mech probably would have been destroyed in like a few seconds into the fight. That's just how these final battles go. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this mock video, please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that other good stuff that keeps the lights on in the Brick Lab. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, if you don't subscribe, your next build video is gonna look like this. Yeah, not pretty. Anyway, I'm Sam, and I will see you next... Wait, somebody... The lights...